You know, it's kind of interesting. Elka came to me one Sunday and said, we're going to start a mission. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I am too. Now, that really wasn't quite accurate. So I quick went to the Board of Elders and Grace and said, how soon can we start the mission? And they said, whenever you're ready, Pastor. We had good help. We had some good ramrods, let me tell you. You've got to have men who support you. And we had them. Community's been very blessed from its very beginning. I think our family should remember that in our early history, like for example, when we went to a city council, the room was filled with members from Community Lutheran. The support of the people from our church was fantastic. I mean, when we went to city council or any of those meetings, we were extremely well. You'd thought it was represented, you thought it was a Sunday morning. All we needed was Pat Knutson. We could have had a service.
That's right. I hope that we use our abilities to become a force in the city, a force for good, to work with the city and develop programs and relief efforts or whatever you want to call it, so that we get the community as a community.
My name is Chris Uring, and I first attended Community Lutheran Church in November of, I want to say 1988. I remember we were meeting at that time in Orange Glen Elementary, and one of the first impressions I had was how friendly everybody was. Over the next several months, we left Orange Glen and moved on to Grant Middle School, and one of the incidences I remember there was it was raining one Sunday morning, and I pulled up into the parking lot, and before I could get my seatbelt off, one of the gentlemen was at my car door with an umbrella in hand. And that really left a lasting impression. What I can remember from Hidden Valley Middle School, that is where my daughter Heather was confirmed in the first confirmation class. I remember seeing Victoria Granger for the first time. Her parents lived across the street, and when we'd have the service, I didn't see her in church, but when we came out for coffee hour, I'd see Victoria there, and for the longest time I thought she was the granddaughter of one of the parishioners. But I found out later that she was a little girl that lived across the street. So I'm sure Victoria had something to do with getting them to join the church. But as we've continued to grow, probably the best thing that I think we've been able to hang on to over all the years is the friendliness of this church. It is the most friendly church I've ever been to, and I've always told my husband if we ever move, the thing I'd miss most is my church.
I'm Barbara Clothier.
And I'm Russ Clothier.
Pastor K was like he was just one of the crowd.
Yeah, like
He
you knew
walked
him
up
all
and
your
down
life.
the aisle, always from the pulpit. He was out with us, and he always delivered wonderful messages. And the first day that we listened to him, we said we'd like to go back.
That first Sunday, by the time we were finished, I was ready to go home. And they said coffee. And I told Barbara, I said, I don't need any coffee, let's go. And she said, no. She said, they've got coffee and cake. We'll do what they say. So we went through the line, and this guy that was pouring the coffee, I introduced myself. And he said, well, I got a brother named Russ. And he said, I'm Rex Nearson. And I said, well, I got a nephew named Rex. And that started it. He said, well, you know what? I have to go back to the state of Washington next week. Would you pour the coffee next week? So the second Sunday, and Rex Nearson never came back. We enjoyed every minute of it.
Doug Alverson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm Kay. And I'm Helen Elrich.
Never been involved in a church that felt as much like a family as this church does. And I don't think that was by accident. I think in the very beginning, Pastor Kay and Ruth nurtured our little group and the way they ministered to us, and then Pastor Vogelsang and Christine took that to a different level, and you know, now that love flows through the ministries of Pastor Harms and Pastor Logai and Pastor Meyer and Joel and Kristen and Jim and you know, and all of the church staff, and you know, and that example really is the way that, and the reason I believe that all of us are so concerned and involved and show that love through everybody in the congregation.
I remember and was so honored to be called. Pastor called me and asked me to help him with his design of his office. And I remember being on the church grounds and just seeing where the office would be with just the lines in the ground, and it just continued, and it was just a fabulous experience working with Pastor Vogelsang, and he was just wonderful.
My name is Heather Morelli, but when I joined this church, my name was Heather Uring. I was about 12, and we came over from Grace Lutheran Church. First memories of church was going to church in a school as compared to a very large sanctuary or church-like building with pews and things to kneel on, and all of a sudden now I'm in a school auditorium, so that made it more fun, I guess, as a 12-year-old. The other thing that I really remember specifically about worship was when my mom said we were going to go to a new church, and I learned that it was Pastor Katerikot who was going to be the preacher. I was super excited because he's a really great speaker, and he was just really engaging, and I just really loved looking forward to hearing his sermon every week, and so I was so excited that we were going over to the new church where he was going to really be on a weekly basis. I remember being a teenage girl going to church on Sunday in K Hall, thinking, one day I could bring a boy here. It'll be awesome. I can't wait until I find the right boy who's going to be like, yes, I'll go to church with you. And Pastor Vogelsang officiated at my wedding, and my husband now comes to church with me whenever we're down visiting, and we come out to church. And so it's just a really wonderful thing to remember that so many years ago I was sitting in that church, you know, listening to the sermons and enjoying the atmosphere and everything going on, thinking about one day, and now it's here, right? Like the church is it's pretty cool.
I'm Lowell Balsam, and I come to community when I was 53.
And I'm Kathy Balsam, and I came to Community Lutheran when I was 47. I just want to thank Pastor Vogelsang for everything he's done. And at Community Lutheran, we have such a good youth program, and I think that's awesome, that what we do to help the youth, and the youth, you know, help themselves and work towards these goals and projects. I think it's just wonderful. Visiting the other site in San Marcos, you go there, and you used to know all the people because they were from community. Now you go there, and you don't know a lot of people because they're new members, which is great.
I'm David Son.
And I'm Mark Son.
It's how you spread the word, and if you are friendly to people, it has good results. Bernie Matthews started it with white gloves that he would have an umbrella also when it would rain, and we would usher people around with the umbrella. Yep. and white gloves to show that we were greeters.
I'm Christine Vogelsang.
And I'm Bill Vogelsang. And we've been members of Community Lutheran Church since November 19th, 1989, when I was installed as the pastor here at Community Lutheran Church.
I know someone came up to me after the first service that my husband preached, and they said, oh, good, he didn't stand behind a pulpit or a lectern. He just stood out there, just like Pastor Kay. I think this is going to work. And I thought, well, that's all it takes. We're in good shape. In fact, the first Sunday we arrived, Kathy Nessel came up to me and said, so when's the first choir practice? Which took me kind of aback a bit. And I said, well, I don't know. When is it? She said, well, you should know. You're the choir director. And I said, who said that? She said, Pastor Kay. And I thought, well, I guess that makes me the choir director then if he says it. I just want to know that it wasn't just meetings. We were having a lot of fun, too, back in the early days. We had a Christmas party the very first year over at the Women's Club, is it? Over on Rose Street. We had picnics. We had cookies and refreshments from the very beginning, right after the service.
Judy Cloak was her.
The cookie ladies, yes.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
But through it all, we always had a dream, and we always had the blessing, I think, of God. And we had the Great Commission to go and to make disciples, and we sought to do that in a variety of ways.
I am Carlos Byfield, originally from Costa Rica. Came to Community Lutheran because when I first moved here, I moved next to Pastor Kateriket. I remember a great deal about some of the people that were here when we started. I remember Ernest and I think Ethel, that were two outstanding members, founding members of this community. And I think, of course, of Herb Connors and Pete Vanderloo and, of course, Pastor Kateriket. There's so many memories going back regarding all these wonderful people that were here and when we started. So in terms of my particular involvement, I've been involved primarily with the singing ministry as a soloist. We had started a quartet at one time as well, which went on for a while.
I'm Dick McAndrews.
John McAndrews.
And it was impressive because we walked up, there was Pastor Vogelstein standing out front with the robe blowing in the wind and greeting everybody. And so the impressive thing was the first time we walked up and I introduced my mom, Ruth, and Joan and myself to Pastor, and hi and everything else. You enjoy the worship, have the coffee and everything. The next Sunday we came back because it was exciting. So the next Sunday we came back, and there was Pastor Vogelstein standing out front. The same as we walked up, he said, "Hi, Ruth. Hi, Joan. Hi, Dick. Could you do me a favor? We're short of friendly greeters. Can you greet today?" And that's the way he worked.
The congregation loved each other, and always were there for anything. We just parties, you name it, work party, they were ever there.
Yeah, we belong to 5 churches. I've never seen any church that has a chemistry that this church has. I mean, the chemistry starts at the top and with the pastor, but even today when you find them brothers and sisters in Christ, that's what the church is all about.
I am Lorraine Rampel. I am a member of Community Lutheran Church, which began in 1987, and that makes it about 25 years of being with the community, which I love. We began over at Grace Lutheran, and we were thinking of building a new church, so we began wondering what we could do as starting in the new church. And I was thinking of making the banners, and that's how I got into the service of helping somehow.
My name is Louise Connors, and this is my husband, Herb Connors. And we are charter members. We're charter members at Community Lutheran Church. We were members of Grace Lutheran Church, and Grace Lutheran Church decided to start a mission church in Escondido. And so when that was decided, we were asked, Herb was asked, to come to Community Lutheran Church and be the new Sunday school superintendent. So that's what brought us to Community Lutheran Church. So he was the first Sunday school superintendent. We started out by worshiping at Orange Glen Elementary School. And then we were moved to Grant Middle School. And after Grant Middle School, then we moved to Hidden Valley School. And then after Hidden Valley, building started on Community Lutheran Church. And we saw the first building, which is now Katoric Hall. And then now the new sanctuary. It's been an exciting journey. And Herb has done so many exciting things. Besides being Sunday school superintendent, he would also teach classes. And then he did a lot of drawing for his children's sermon and Sunday school. You remember all those drawings?
Yes, right.
And Christine
Really?
Vogelsang, she started a 0 to 2 age group. And she asked Herb to draw some cartoons so the children could visualize the stories. And we just learned out recently that she still, to this day, uses the cartoons that Herb drew. And that's very exciting, very exciting.
I'm Susie Beneman Panera.
I'm Scott Hayward.
I'm Sue Hayward.
And I'm Sue Caselius.
When you drove up, if it was raining, there was Ernie Mathis with the umbrella.
The white
and he would
glove.
always greet you
Yeah.
and help you out of the car. They'd even park your car for you. So, you know, we had quite a few children, and so 6 to be exact. So sometimes it was pouring down rain. We enjoyed, you know, letting him park the car, and we'd run out. So it was great. I mean, any kind of service they could do, they would do it to encourage people to come.
We have been blessed in so many ways, and we're reaching out, and really with the Great Commission is what we were all about to start with, and we continue to be. So I see nothing but continued growth, because we realize that it's all about bringing new members in and ministering to our families the way we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. My prayer for this church is that it continues to be a Christ-centered church, and that it just accurately preaches the gospel to this community, which it has done from the very beginning. And I think that's why we all love it so much and have our hearts always been here for that reason.
It's home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just always want to reach out to others, and I think whenever we can come up with a new ministry that will help that, you know, with our Board of Outreach now and everything, I think it's good. We're always looking out and looking for other people and see what their needs are in the